I want a student who's curious and thinks interesting thoughts and has a lot to bring to the class and is willing to.
What do you want to talk about? What do you want to tell stories about? And how would you do that creatively online?
And understand that they have a point of view, that they have a thing to say that might translate into actually learning.
And so it's always bringing in all these current events that are happening. So it's always moving, it's always changing and adapting. So I think a professor that's able to move and adapt with that environment is the perfect type of professor for a student like myself.
I want a student who, when they do the hokey pokey, they put their whole selves in. So I want them to come to class and put their whole selves in.
I want students that are as excited about learning as I am.
That's the kind of student I want.
You know, I think Mayor Washington, sometimes we find that, so it's cool.
So it was really cool for me to do that and see the parallels, you know, just across the board between what we say we want in students and with the keynote, really, in terms of what we're saying is important globally. You know, and even we have a lone student voice, which I appreciate, right? But, you know, the parallels are there too. This is what students want. It's what teachers want. So the question is, why are we unable to do it? And I'd say a lot of the roots of it go to the way we prepare students for this particular environment. When I talk to teachers, a lot of the things they say tend to tear up. I tear up occasionally, but you know, it goes up. When I'm you know, in 5th grade, I'm preparing them for middle school. When I'm at the end of middle school, they got to be ready for high school. And high school says we've got to prepare them for college, where they will sit and they will take notes. That is the perspective. Is that to get somebody ready for higher ed, they have to be able to write papers and sit very still and take notes. And those are not the students that do any of those things. That is not preparation for any of those things, but it is the perception. You know, and I'd be willing to put it to a survey, you know, nationally. This is the perception of what you need to do to prepare students for college. And I think that is why people get frustrated. Even if you inherently in your heart want to do this, you attempt to do it, and it fails spectacularly sometimes because these students are not used to it. They're not prepared for it. This is the kind of thing that has to be scaffolded up. It has to be built. These skills have to climb. They have to be acquired over time. The sophistication needs to grow. The saddest thing I ever heard, you know, a student say was it was a young lady at one of our, you know, higher end high schools, and we were interviewing about, you know, a lot of things around this, and she said, I know I should want to do creative things and different things, and sometimes teachers give it to us. But like we don't know what to do with it, because every other day you tell me exactly what to do, and then just randomly you say it's up to you, and I don't know how to cope with that, you know. So she's been put into the system. She's been, you know, conditioned to expect that education is like this, and so when it isn't, she doesn't know what to do. And I'd argue she shouldn't know what to do, because we haven't kind of prepared her for that. But if we look at this from a K-12 perspective, if these are the students you want, then we really need to start addressing what K-12 does to prepare them. And then you, as powerful members of your community, have to be taking a voice in this argument. You know, there's a shot of Flash's slide, which didn't turn out too well. But, you know, it was, what do these walls say? To learn is to acquire information. Information is scarce. Trust authority for good information. Authorized information is beyond discussion. Obey authority and follow along. If K-12, in my mind, fits this mold perfectly. And that's why when people come to you as first-year students, they don't question what you say. They don't question primary sources because they've been conditioned over 12 years. You've got them for 4, usually. Compare that to 12. I mean, imagine if those 12 years were really an extension of 16 rather than a starting over. You know, imagine what those capabilities, those possibilities would entail. So we see what the standardized testing is bringing us in terms of students because of the focus. And there are people who are still doing awesome things in spite of it, but I'm going to say it's a systemic hindrance to good things rather than an accelerant to good things. And you know, we'd like to think that the kind of assessments and the kind of structures we give to teachers and students would help them become better faster rather than actually hampering the process of getting what we want. So I'd like to put it back to y'all at the table is if standardized testing is getting us this, what kind of assessments would drive the opposite? What kind of assessments would get us that were described in that video? So I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes just to discuss that as a group. Finish up in the next 30 seconds or so. All right, what I'm hearing is a lot of talk about things like project-based assessments and rubrics and things like that. And it was interesting to hear one table come up with the idea, because I think I'd been imprecise in terms of, does it help universities find, kind of acquire the students that want to do this? Or is it more about high school providing the skills for all students? And just an interesting parallel, you could get kind of both. So if high schools were doing project-based student work, it changes how you would be able to assess what students you want. So you see a lot of like the acceptance being based on SAT, ACT scores, that sort of thing. What would you be able to do if you could see real work that student had done? If they came to you with a portfolio of work, would it change what students you accepted and how you kind of put them in, just assess them in general? It's just an interesting idea, and I don't want to turn this into a Henrico County ad, but I do want to share that we are trying to do some of this stuff. This year we did our first attempt at what we call 21st century assessment, and that word kind of makes me a little nauseous, or phrase, I guess, just because I've had to say it so often.